Cheat days, cheat meals, something that has, I think, become a lot popular. Maybe it's just the terms themselves that have been, tossed about a bit more recently, but everyone's like, oh, I'm having a cheat day, or should I have a cheat meal? And how often can I have a cheat meal? Should I have a cheat meal? Etc, etc, etc. And I get a lot of questions on this, and I think the biggest thing is it's just individual. I mean, a cheat day? Probably not. I mean, a day where you eat whatever you want, likely not going to help. A meal? Maybe. But again, it's individual. Like, I feel this has got really popularized through, certain people like The Rock in particular, and also sort of, bodybuilders, etc. But you have to remember that these people are different to you and I. The Rock is huge. He trains for hours a day. You can't compare what he does to what you do if you are a hell of a lot smaller and you're sitting in an office desk all day. It's just not the same. And when we talk about sort of cheat meals, cheat days, it is kind of like flexible dieting, right? So you can absolutely eat the foods that you enjoy and still lose weight. Without a shadow of a doubt, if you're in a calorie deficit and you are burning more calories than you eat, you will lose weight. And it doesn't matter if they come from pizza or fruit and veg. Doesn't matter. It's just energy balance. The nuances though here get to, can you actually do that and control your calories? Because again, for a lot of people, it's individual. And what I tend to say is, first of all, for the majority of people, scrap the cheat day. I mean, that just never works well. But can you have a cheat meal? I think, yeah, you can. But again, it depends on you. If you can have this cheat meal and you can control it and it doesn't cause you to binge or make you feel bad for eating it, then yes, do it. Fantastic. If you can't, don't. If you have this and then you have to go and eat 3 litres of ice cream and 15 cookies afterwards, and then you wake up the next morning feeling like crap and feeling guilty, stop doing it. You clearly don't have a great relationship with food at the moment, and you're just going to get yourself stuck in a restrict binge cycle. And that is not good, A, for weight loss, but also for your mental health. So it's really, really individual. It depends on you and whether you can fit it into your calories, and B, whether you're in the right frame of mind to be able to have it. And I think like an extra note, which I think is really important, often missed in these conversations, is stop calling it a cheat. It sounds really innocuous and people will be like, oh, it's only a word. But for a lot of people, it isn't. There is no positive connotation with the word cheat at all. And again, whilst it may seem very sort of innocuous for a lot of people, I think also for a lot of people, it doesn't help their relationship with food. If you see these meals as a cheat, and it almost makes it sound like they're bad and that you shouldn't eat them. And that's just not true. Like, there are no foods that are inherently on their own healthy or unhealthy. And there are no foods that are inherently on their own fattening or slimming. You have to, if you eat one salad, that does not make you slim and healthy. If you eat one pizza, that does not make you overweight and unhealthy. You have to look at the diet as a whole, as some of its parts as such. So, and again, this is where this cheat comes in. It's not a cheat. It's just a different food that you wouldn't normally eat. It's just a food or a meal that, it has less nutrients and more calories than the foods that you normally eat. It's not bad and it's not unhealthy. It's just, it makes more sense that if weight loss or weight maintenance is your goal, that you don't eat these all of the time, because it's just not conducive to your goals. It's not because they're bad, it's just because they don't fit and align with your goals. So we choose to eat them less often. But if we want them, we can eat them. but we work them in and we don't eat them the majority of the time. Again, and I think for a lot of people, this will probably make no sense to you, and that's okay because you probably have a great relationship with food. But I think for a lot of people, they will kind of resonate with this, and I think it's really, really important for developing a good relationship with food, because no foods are off limits, no foods are bad. You just eat some foods more often than you eat others because they have more nutrients, they have less calories, so they promote health and they are more conducive to our weight loss maintenance or weight loss goals. So we just choose to eat some foods more often than we eat others. It's not because they're bad, it's because it makes more sense to focus on them the majority of the time. But doesn't mean that we can't eat the others, but we fit them in. And if this is you and you can do this, like I talked about, without binging, I really, really like the 80-20 rule. And the 80-20 rule basically says that we eat 80% of the foods, 80% of the foods that we eat come from whole, minimally processed foods. So your obvious ones, like I talk about in loads of different videos, particularly ones that reduce hunger, like fruit, veg, oats, whole grains, legumes, beans, protein sources like meat, seafood, all those kind of foods that we always talk about. And then the other 20% can come from whatever you want. Doesn't matter. As long as you account for it and it stays at 20% and it doesn't cause you to binge, they can come from whatever you want. And I find this works really well for a lot of people, because if I say you can't have it, what's the first thing you want? You want it, right? If you restrict it, and then finally give in, what happens? You tend to binge on it. Whereas I find for a lot of people, if they allow themselves to have a little bit often, it tends to reduce cravings and also stops them binging. But again, it's individual. Can you do that without binging? So again, to summarize, should you have a cheat day or a cheat meal? Probably not a cheat day. Should you have a cheat meal? Yes, if you can fit it in, but don't call it a cheat. It's not a cheat. It's just that you want this food that you don't normally have. And it's okay for you to do that, so long as the majority of the time you focus on those foods and those meals that are more conducive to your goals. So yeah, again, individual. You know what works for you. Do what works for you. So that's another one for you guys. Hopefully you did enjoy that and got something from it. If you did, as always, please do interact on the videos. I always appreciate it. Make sure you give the video a like, drop a comment. Again, as always, maybe you've noticed something, maybe there's something that resonates with you, let me know. Maybe you're going to try something different now because of what you've learned from this video. Again, drop a comment, let me know. It's always cool to hear from people. Always nice to see that people are getting something from the video, so please do share with me. Make sure you subscribe to the channel by clicking the button in the top right. Well, no, I'm not sure what corner it is actually, but in the top corner of the video, just so you get an alert when you get new videos, because these are going to be coming out thick and fast. So just lots of free tips, so make sure you don't miss out on those by subscribing. As always, thank you very much for tuning in, and I shall see you next time. Thank you.